Wonder Woman issue 800, which is in two parts. The first 2/3 are a story from the current team that are ending their run, and the last third is the new Tom King sort of tease for his run with the introduction to Trinity. So I started reading the first story and then kind of got what it was doing with like jumping through dreams, and then I just kind of skimmed through the rest of it because I didn't really want to read it.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, just to sum it up from what I got was, it's doing that kind of special anniversary issue thing where it's just a reason for Wonder Woman to have like a one-on-one talking about the meaning of being a hero to the various Wonder Girls. You know, so it's Yara,
extended Batman point.
Yeah, there's a Yara, and then it's Donna, and then it's Cass, and then it's the Trinity. So it's Batman and then Superman.
Yeah, so I got up to the point where I saw the pearls, and I was like, no, I'm not doing the pearls in a Wonder Woman book.
Fun fact I learned about the pearls in general is like actual, like, expensive pearl necklaces. They tie knots between each pearl, so if it does snap, you don't lose all of them. You'll only lose like.
So are you saying that Thomas Wayne cheaped out for Martha?
I kind of am, yeah.
I actually know what I think is that was a change in the industry after the murder of the Waynes.
It's because of the Waynes.
It was bad for business. Everyone seeing that.
So I got to that and I was like, oh my god, I'm not. So I started skipping. I'm like, what's this Jen Bartel art with Superman and Wonder Woman? So I stopped and I read that stuff. And that was
of course
that was nice. Yeah, nice sentiment
immediately
there.
I was like, oh, but like there was like two artists in this. Obviously, the first one was Joel Jones because you knew immediately.
And that was the other thing as well, is that each of the dreams, because Wonder Woman's asleep and she's dreaming all these scenarios. Like everyone.
Well, she's healing in some Themyscirian cave.
Oh yeah.
Right?
That's I had no idea what was going on with that because I stopped reading by the time they explained any of that. But but like for each of these dreams, there's a different artist for each one, so it's an excuse to have all these different artists. And they do, there's a sweet thing at the end of the Batman one where it's like Bruce actually wakes up and realizes that Wonder Woman was in the same nightmare he has every night of his parents dying. Wonder Woman showed up and was actually there for it, so whatever. But I wasn't that interested, partly because I haven't been reading that run, but also just because it felt like the typical, this is a milestone issue, we have to have a fluffy story where it's just an excuse to talk to all the main characters kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think it was that bad.
No, it wasn't the worst. I just wasn't that interested in reading it.
Yeah.
What we're really here for, though, was the start of the next run, or at least the tease for it, which is the Tom King and Sam Peer stuff.
Yeah, a.k.a. don't we have enough Wonder Girls already?
Yes.
Well, this is Wonder Woman in the future, like. Because I guess that's the question: is are we going to get Trinity in any form in present day?
Yes.
So King has said that the reason that they started it with Trinity is because they're going to build to her character.
Sure.
So I don't know if he means like she'll actually show up, but there's going to be. I think maybe by the end of his run, Wonder Woman has a daughter. Now it might not be this fully grown. Right. But
of course. Especially since
I think it'll be within 12 issues.
I mean, Carr just wants to be cynical. I think from the sounds of it with John and Damien talking, it sounds like she was always younger than them. Like they were babysitting her when when they were like already at their age.
Yeah, because they feel fully formed, like almost like their parents' age now, and she's significantly younger.
She is, and I'm assuming it's another Sand/Clay baby.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's happening, which is why when I say, within 12 issues, I don't think that was being particularly cynical.
Do you mean fully formed Trinity, or do you mean as a child, like...
I just meant the tone of the way you said it, to be honest. You sounded cynical.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean it. I think I'll be shocked if it goes that long without them introducing... I think them putting it here in this preview is like it's a statement of, no, she's going to feature pretty heavily...
Well, she obviously is, but it's very clear from this preview that there's going to be a framing device. Like the main story we're going to get in the run is going to be a story that she is hearing from this mysterious villain who's telling her how Wonder Woman beat him. Right? That's what they set up here by the end, right?
Yeah.
So the story of this is that we've got John and Damien, and John's like basically wearing his dad's Superman outfit, minus the red trunks, though I will point out. But otherwise, he's basically just wearing a Superman outfit now. Damien's got his big collar. He's Batman.
666 outfit.
Yeah. And Trinity shows up, and they're basically doing these trials to get to some prisoner, and it was something that they promised Wonder Woman they would never do. So they're breaking rules of their parents to
and they're breaking the word.
For whatever reason, and it's all about getting to this villain who she does refer to as Your Majesty, which maybe is a tease for who it could be. No one's spring to my mind immediately, but
I mean, first thought was Zeus, but it doesn't seem to fit Zeus.
No, I wouldn't say so. So, this is teasing what the story is going to be. It seems like, whatever story happened in the past that led to this villain being imprisoned is going to be the main story. But we'll probably get glimpses of this part of it where she's talking to him sprinkled throughout, I would imagine.
Right. And so she has to get John and Damien, who she refers to as her older brothers, which I do like because it shows that family dynamic. But that each of them, there's a trial, right? And kind of reminiscent of the first Harry Potter book, right?
Kind of, yeah.
And so, the first one is pain. So, they're all talking about who's going to do what. And Trinity's just like, no, if you guys don't want to decide, I'll decide for you. So she has John do the pain where he grabs the statue's hand and it puts him in this endless loop, but he has to hold on so they can get through the door. And then they drop through the second level, and Damien, what was it? That was
Skill.
And it's Skill, and he has to battle the goddess of victory, Nike. And of course, Damien's like, oh, this was supposed to be hard.
This is fun.
Yeah, this is fun. And then she gets down, so it's on her, and she has to face her mother.
I'm a little disappointed King didn't put in the phrase "just do it" at some point in that.
Yeah, right.
Battle.
Right.
It was on the table. It was right there.
And he's playing with that sort of dialogue, like the bit when they're going in.
Yeah.
And Damien's like, I know Greek, and John's like, no, you don't. He goes, I could learn Greek. And it's like, anyone could learn Greek.
Right. Well, and it's their dynamic that we love with John and Damien still, and they're adults and they're still doing that, right? But so Trinity faces, it's Honor is the last one, and it's someone appearing as Diana, saying that they're disappointed for doing this, but Trinity eventually knows, like, you're not my mother, and she has a black lasso, right? Because the Diana that's there is like,
not only that, she mentions later a trinity of lassos. So we're going to have
that's what I was getting to, right?
We see she's got a black, a silver, and a gold one.
Yeah.
The gold one being the traditional one.
Yeah,
right.
So I'm looking forward to finding out specifically what the other two do.
Yep. Well, because the black one does seem associated with death instead of truth, right? Like it's she goes to that one because this Diana goes, well, you should know better that my lasso won't work on me. And she goes, well, it's not you and it's not gold, right? And that's where you see the black come out, and she strangles her and drops her there. And that's where she gets to the prison.
It's definitely an interesting tease from from the perspective of introducing new mythology for Wonder Woman, saying that there's different types of lassos that we're going to kind of weave a story around and have them all be connected in some way. Right. That's interesting. Like I think that's a
well, they're the fates. So she calls them the lassos of fate. And you have to know there's the three fates, right?
Well, I said the names. She's got like the Golden Perfect, right?
Right.
Do they all have like a separate name?
Well, I called it the Trinity of Lassos because obviously three of them is intentional because her name's Trinity, and they're going to. I imagine the number 3 is going to come up a lot in the course of writing for this character.
And 3 in magic in the occult, 3 is a very powerful number, right? You have the rule of 3.
3 then 7.
Right. So, and you know what? She did say she's the leader of the Justice League. And there's usually 7, right?
She casually dropped that reference, yes.
Yeah. So, and no, she does. She weirdly feels like a child of the Trinity, even to go with the name, because she has some of the some of the Clark stuff, some of the Bruce aspects. It's not just Diana. Yeah. So she almost feels like the kid that was raised by the Justice League at this point.
So I will, there's been kind of something that we've not brought up yet, which is the character herself and talking about her. And I think I will say I do have a nitpick here to pick with her dialogue, which is I get what Tom King's going for, but I think he might be slightly overdoing the I don't know, I guess the smart ass. Yeah, like she's doing a lot of like smart ass talk where she's kind of like speaking kind of intentionally kind of weird, and she's like she I guess like it fits into the modern sensibilities of how a lot of movies are written these days, with characters being extra witty and stuff like that. Yeah. And I don't mind. I actually quite like characters talking like that in comics, but I do think it feels like King's never written a character like this before, and it feels like he's turning it up to 11 because he doesn't know how to, like, where the line should be.
I think the only way this works, and maybe this will work more in context because obviously we've not seen that much of her now.
Yeah.
She's very cocky, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this only works for me, this tone, if they probably shouldn't be as cocky as they actually are.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Right.
Like the fact that they're going, oh, well, she's the leader of the Justice League, and, you know, she's doing all these things really relatively easily, you know, seemingly. It's kind of me like maybe she should be this cocky. And then it just comes off as an ego. In this, you know, this dialogue, it comes off as egotistical instead of being that overcompensating, and it makes me like it less.
Well,
maybe when we see more of it, and maybe it's all a bit of a front, I think I like it more in that sense.
Because it's very opposite of Diana, right? Diana's very
humble,
demure. She keeps, you know, she there's a poise to her always.
It definitely feels like Trinity grew up more associated with man's world because she's, you know, Diana speaks the way she does largely because she grew up separate from the rest of the world, and she speaks more proper, and it's more, you know, influenced
formal.
Formal. That's a good word. Whereas this sounds like a character who is going to make a lot of pop culture references and who is like wording things in a way that because she's heard a funny character say it that way in a TV show or something like that, you know?
Even has her saying like super duper.
Yeah. Like there's just a lot of little things like that. At one point she says like, I can't remember even what she was talking about, but she says something like a ton. And it came off as very like, oh, she's adding a lot of flavor into her dialogue. Or Tom King's adding a lot of flavor into her dialogue, I should say.
Right.
And that's fine. No, it kind of reads like how I expect maybe like a Stephanie Brown to sometimes sound, like with a lot of, you know, extra trash talk for, you know, for flavor. But I do think King's not written a character like this before. It sounded very on Tom King, and I think maybe this is maybe a bit of a growing pain of that he's just not done a character like this before.
Yeah.
And it sounded like he was overcompensating by having too much of it.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, we don't talk about that book, but Heroes in Crisis, his Harley, I remember us feeling the same way. That his Harley was kind of like that too. It's just, it's not a gear that King has because the way that he writes isn't like that.
I appreciate that he's trying something different to his norm with her.
Right. Well, and it makes her stand out against Diana too, because you just don't want to carbon copy, you know? So,
yeah. Like, again, I have like the mild conceptual issue of, right, another successor to Wonder Woman, right? That we haven't had enough of those over the years. That can't we try? You know.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the legitimate things you could say along with that is that this personality, like, it's not a million miles from Yara. Yara's got kind of like a wise ass attitude.
Cassie.
Yeah,
I think
Cassie kind of grew into that though.
Right, but I think if you take a slightly older Cassie, you know, age her up to be alongside the same, you know, as John and Damien are here. I don't think this is a million miles away from what you could expect from her personality at that point.
Like, the book ended up not being that good after a few issues, but it is kind of a shame that Yara's just been kind of thrown under the bus here. And I get, like, the sad reason for it is that because somewhere along the way, someone said, yeah, but wouldn't it be cooler if all three of the future Trinity were all the kids of the previous Trinity? And Yara was this, like, you know, she didn't fit that mold because John and Damien are the kids of Batman and Superman. They wanted the kid of Wonder Woman to be the Wonder Woman. I really dislike it as a trend in not just in comics but in media. Oh yeah, this is
the favored bloodline, right?
This is the, you know, somehow a Palpatine returns. It's just
they have to be a Skywalker. It's like I'm sick. What was wrong with all the other, you know, like other found family members that we had before? There's a point where like Damien almost gets away with it slightly because he was the first one, but like, you know, he by definition then shoves Dick, Tim, not kissed by Jason, but Jason, you know, he kind of shoves them to one side and is like, I'm the Bat now.
Which I think works for him though, because he actually like almost intentionally has that attitude where he's like, no, you move aside because I'm the son of the Bat.
It's a combination of that attitude and him being the first one. Kind of is like, okay, you get the pass.
But I don't think that for the audience though, I don't think it has moved the others aside. Like, I think especially now he's been treated properly, but like I think for us, Dick was always still seen as like part of what makes Dick and a lot of the other Bat families so special is because they are found family members. They're not just by blood. They are.
Well, and I felt that's where Yara worked in the grand scheme of the Amazons, right? She's a new one. She's from man's world, so it was a little twist on Diana's, right? So she's doing it in reverse now, right? She's of man's world, but she's discovering the mythological realm instead of vice versa. And
with
that was a good air.
The other Wonder Girls, I think it's okay with Donna now because Donna's got a role on the Titans in the same way as as Nightwing does, right? There's that level there.
Yeah, I think it's Cassie's. I mean, not just Cass on her own, but I think that entire generation of character. Because with Tim's had this problem recently as well, where Tim feels kind of lost in the shuffle.
Connor.
Yeah,
I mean,
they all feel a bit lost in the shuffle. Those characters.
And as I said, like John has again, it's arguably slightly less of a problem again. Still more than it was with Damian, but less than this because again, okay, it wasn't every single one of them, but I think to be fair, Connor had been forgotten about for a long time before that anyway. But it's like we've got characters ready and waiting already to fill this role.
But and weirdly though, when you look at Flash, because Legacy's always been so much about, right? Bart doesn't feel as lost, even though he was gone for a while too. It doesn't feel the same as his generation.
And I think like with the Flash family,
I would say comparatively, like it does compare to Wally, like
compared to Wally,
Wally, compared to Wally. But if you look at like who the Flash is represented that is Wallace, right? I don't feel like they would push Bart aside.
Well, yeah, Wallace is a bit different though. But I'm saying if you think about how Tim feels to Dick, regardless of like who you prefer or whatever, but just in terms of like importance and like how much time they get and how much important stories they get, Tim to Dick and Bart to Wally right now, there's a similar kind of feeling between them in terms of ratios.
Yeah. Tim's probably a little bit better off in the last couple of years, but before that, it's just I think it's the sort of thing where I'm not against adding new characters by any means, but it feels so soon after Yara, because Yara was only the start of last year. Yara is a new character. And they kind of fluffed a little bit, like her book. I think it wasn't that great, and then it got cancelled quite early, and so it's kind of left her in this weird limbo. But they clearly don't want us to figure out about her either, because they've put her in, the 800 story. This very issue, and I say, and I don't quite get why we feel the need to create this character when we've got Yara or Cassie to choose from to kind of do this story with.
Well, I think, but you guys are onto it that it's that. The one true bloodline thing.
Yeah, which is
conceptually dislike.
Yeah,
right.
I think that's annoying to me. But at the same time, if you forget all that and you look at the character on her own, like I think there's potential here. I think she's overwritten in this first little story, but that could just be growing pains.
It's one of those things that in a vacuum, she's a perfectly fine character. I don't think she has as strong an introduction as Yara did.
No,
in terms of just recent introductions like that. But in a vacuum. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this introduction.
There is a very good chance, though, but by the time we get, like, say, 12 issues or so, and that she'll have a much stronger story than Yara ever did, once it's actually played out.
Yeah.
But, and I wonder if he consulted, because I know Tom King and Joel Jones are really close friends, right? Like, that was a whole thing during his Batman run when she came on to do the art.
It wouldn't surprise me if, we do get Yara and Cassie, like, popping in for, the supporting characters in the run.
Something. But I wonder if he consulted with Joel Jones at all about that, because it did remind me of Yara's introduction. And it's that same, they kind of are filling the same void of this is the opposite of Diana. And so
and more importantly,
very weird.
Yara was also introduced in Future State as the Wonder Woman of the Trinity that John and Damian will make up. And now this is saying, nah. Now now Trinity is the Wonder Woman of the Trinity of John Damian and their Wonder Woman.
Well, and Future State was also trying to set up John and Yara as a power couple, and nothing ever came. You know? So because Taylor came in and decided to do a different thing that I think works even better, right? So by giving him a supporting cast that's not another superhero supporting cast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mixed feelings here, even though there's nothing that wrong with this.
No, I like the story. I wouldn't say I like Trinity as a character yet, because again, there's
not enough to get a grasp.
There's not enough to get on there, but her relationship with John and Damian, though, I thought that was the strongest part of this little story.
Honestly, I think more looking forward to her being a younger kid and seeing the stories of John and Damian looking after her, because I think I'm kind of more interested in seeing those two than I am in seeing her. But I think them having that responsibility between them could be fun.
Their little comment about babysitting her, and I think John says, Damian says, we were too easy on her, as a kid, and John's like, what? not taking her to like the Killer Croc fight was being easy on her. Like I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of want to see like a little mini series of them babysitting young Trinity now when they're whatever age. So like if Damien's like say 15 and John's like 20, whatever the age gap is at that point. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, and that's what helps. She is a clay baby. Forming her, you don't have to get the toddler phase, right?
That's true. If she's a clay baby, we can kind of jump her to like 6 or whatever, or
right. And
I'm assuming that's what they're gonna do, yeah.
But I do like their relationship. The fact that they're standing there on that beach waiting for her to show up, and she's late, and the other one goes, yeah, but she's always late. We know this. Like, is she really late? If we know she's gonna be late, there was that dynamic between them that and her that I do like. But yeah, it was good. I mean, Saint-Pierre's art's pretty good.
Oh yeah,
I like the colors on it, particularly like in the stuff towards the end in the prison cell. Like the lighting is really strong.
Yeah, and just like whoever is in there too, the way that the shadows hit.
Any other guesses on who it might be? Because
I have none.
The only ones I can think of is Zeus and Black Adam.
Yeah.
Your Majesty could be Black Adam. I do
they mentioned King, yeah.
I do like the idea that it's not a Wonder Woman character. I do actually quite like that idea. Like, let's say if it was like it wouldn't be Aquaman, but like maybe like a Zebel King or something.
I was gonna say Aquaman because but that plays on Flashpoint, and I don't want to remember that.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually Aquaman, but I'm just wondering if it could be like an Atlantean king of some kind, or whatever it may be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And who is a big enough threat that you have to lock them away with this elaborate system?
Elvis.
Yeah, right. Well, we all know he's at the old folks home beat.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
He's with JFK fighting off mummies. Yes.
Yes.
And he's having fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll rate this. I mean, I think we're just really rating the King story because we all just kind of skim through the first one, but I think we should rate the main one we read. So what are you giving it, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 7.
Connor?
Yeah, probably a 7 from me as well. I don't think I can justify anything higher.
Yeah, I can agree with a 7. I think we'll swim in 7s with that one.